This is Broad Radio. For you, by you. Broad Radio. Here for more.
Oh, good morning and welcome to Broad Radio. I'm Jo Stanley. My co-host today is the delightful comedian, playwright, podcaster, multi-talented Diana Nguyen.
Thank you, my manager. Yes.
I've got your CV up here. If you are joining us live today, we want to wish you, even if you're catching up via podcast, which you can do wherever you get your podcast, Broad Radio on the go, but wherever you are joining us from, we wish you a good night's sleep. We hope you had a good night's sleep last night, because we've just established pretty much our entire team did not sleep last night, and we think maybe it was the full moon.
Yeah, it's a super moon as well, so it's more jacked up in the full moon.
It's a hardcore moon.
It's a hardcore moon.
See, now I'm not really across the whole full moon thing, but you just shared with me that you embrace the moon.
Yeah, well, I've always embraced star signs as a teenager growing up. But then in my early 30s, I started investigating about the moons and new moons, how our bodies transition. So I found that, can we say menstruation?
You can say whatever the fuck you like, though.
9902. I've just found like my menstruation was syncing to the moon.
Right.
And apparently that's quite magical as well. So I started investigating about full moons and new moons, and I realised that our women bodies and our spirits are linked to it. So we were just talking about I do a full moon party every month.
Every month?
With a healer, yeah. She hosts a full moon party on Zoom, especially when we were on lockdown. And she just talked about what that month looks like with that moon and what we should do and ask questions. It's kind of like a little manifestation.
How amazing.
Yeah, and the retrogrades, if that's another level as well. When technology is not working, it's because of a Mercury retrograde.
And so what can you learn? Like, what kind of questions do you ask that you can actually then, is it about setting an intention for the month ahead?
Yes. Well, if that month is going to be hard, like Mars is about war.
I hate Mars.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's like, what shouldn't I do? Like, actually, you don't need to do everything in that month if it's going to be hard for communication.
So and you actually plan your life around that?
I don't use it book to book like it's a dot to dot points, but I use it as a guide to make the best decisions for me. And so last night we talked about not being able to sleep. It's because it's shining on it. You walked out of your
I did.
house.
Because when I don't sleep, I don't lie in bed. Oh, I can't sleep. I just go, stuff this, I'm getting up, right? Yeah. And because I've not slept basically my entire life, I remember being a teenager and just walking around my house, like when my family was asleep, just kind of looking out the window like a scary ghost. And so last night I did exactly that. I went downstairs and I was like, is there a spotlight in our backyard? It was so bright, this moon.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Beautiful.
Amazing. Well, and energized too. Weirdly, I don't feel like I didn't sleep. I feel a little bit unsettled, like on edge. So buckle up, anything could happen. But
here we go.
Certainly I don't feel that weariness that you get when you don't sleep. So the moon is kind of energizing in that way, do you think?
Well, the next 24 hours, just get a bit of that moon tonight even. I think it's...
Get some moon, everyone. See, I've never been to a full moon party, but I've always associated it with my days as a raver. But it's not that kind of party. It's not that kind of party, is it?
It's not.
Okay. Okay. Well, anyway, if you are joining us, we do hope that you got some sleep last night and you feel energised perhaps by that moon. Of course, share your comments and your thoughts and your questions if you're watching live as we go throughout this morning. We'd love to hear from you. We have a beautiful show coming up for you. We're going to be speaking first up with award-winning journalist and author of many amazing books, but her latest book is L-Platers, which is all about teen girls, which I read and was slightly terrified about because my daughter is 13. But so Madonna King is going to be joining us. Also today we are speaking with Australia's first blind fashion designer, Nikki Hind, to talk about fashion, but also to talk about inclusivity and diversity in fashion. Such an important conversation. And then wrapping it up with one of your mates, comedian Lizzy Hoo, who I just love. She's super funny.
Yeah. And her titles of her shows always end with a Who. So
I know.
it's great.
I've got some suggestions
Have
for
you
her.
got it?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
I brainstormed that overnight by myself whilst I was not sleeping. Erche says, good morning. Ask Diana about her possum situation.
Oh,
What does that mean?
Saturday night at 2 a.m, I was cleaning my bedroom. It was a mess, which is the state of my mind sometimes. And I looked up and there was a possum looking at me.
In your room?
On my bed. It's on my Instagram. It's a documentary. From 2 to 3 a.m, I was trying to get this, called the police, the North Fitzroy police station, like directly to them and said, hey, no one's home to help me with the possum. Can you please come over? And they said, no, we can't help with possums. But here's the wildlife hotline.
Is the possum breaking and entering?
Yes, it did.
Is the possum stealing anything? We can't do anything
But
otherwise.
the thing that gets me is that how long had it been sitting there? Because I was on that floor for 2 hours.
Oh, my God, Diana. Possums can be really vicious too.
Yeah, no, this one was drowsy.
Oh, okay.
It was, yeah, it just sat there looking at me.
Oh, it was probably freaking out, going, how did I get in here? And how do I get out again?
Yeah.
Oh, how did it?
We don't know. I closed my bedroom door, slept on the couch, walked in, and it was gone. Unless it's hiding on my bed and breeding. Like
I feel you need to investigate that, Diana.
I know. It's not hasn't appeared on my bed in the last 48 hours. So
Wow.
I'm here.
That is an extraordinary story, and we must stay up to date with Possumgate as we are going. Do keep us informed. Another thing that has happened over the last 24 hours, of course, yesterday was Queen's birthday, so the Queen's birthday honours were awarded, and I was really pleased to see that 40% of the recipients overall were women, which is an improvement.
Yes.
It's a really important thing, and actually there's a really fantastic movement that's been taking place over Australia for the last, quite a few years to really see more women nominated, which is up to us. We have to nominate the women in our lives and make an effort to nominate amazing women because it actually is really critical that women are recognised and traditionally have not been recognised. And I was so thrilled to see actually one of our very first guests. She was a guest on Broad Radio in our 4th show last year on Australia Day, or I should say Invasion Day, 26th of January last year. Catherine Fox, who she received an AOS Day for service to journalism and gender equality and diversity. And we actually asked her, because she is fronting this movement to see more women being awarded, and she last year explained why it is so important for women to be awarded. And have a listen.
Awards to women is particularly important because women are penalised still in our society when they speak up for themselves, for example. They're, accused of big noting themselves. It's just not seen as congruent with being feminine. It's a very age-old stereotype, in fact, and it's not something innate. We're not born with a modesty gene, but it is something that we get reflected back to us. So a woman who's outspoken about what she's achieved, or in fact, even dare I say, assertive, often finds that she gets great deals of pushback. And therefore, that's why I think it's actually even more important that we make a real effort to do this.
I love what she's saying there, that it's not an innate thing that we be modest. We've just been told not to share our successes and not to be confident in ourselves in that way.
I'm so opposite from that. I do share too much. You know me on LinkedIn. I'm just oversharing my successes.
That's amazing, though.
I think I've hopped that hurdle.
Why do you have that in you?
Because it's the only way I get seen, and it proved to me that I've worked so long. Like I've held on to this industry that I'm devoted to.
Yeah.
And it's I count my involvement in this industry as if it's my birthday. Like I've made it this year. I haven't given up on my dream. I'm still disappointing my mum, but I'm still going for it. So
you are enjoying incredible success because of partly your talent, but also your incredible hard work, right?
Yeah.
But you did receive an award.
Yes.
You were number 1 in the under 40 Asian Australians.
Under
right?
40, correct.
Congratulations.
Yes.
Did that award make a difference for you?
For me, I was very honoured to receive that award because that was selected by a panel of Asian Australians, but also people in the industry who wanted to highlight successful Asian Australians, which we don't see in Australian media. And we were talking about before, like for a good 48 hours, I was promoted everywhere and then I disappeared. And that's what usually happens with diverse people. We kind of are celebrated, the tokenized, and then we're let go, and then we have to keep working again. And that's why I say I have to keep promoting myself so that people can see I'm still working. Because if I disappear, then you won't know who I am. I will be irrelevant. Yeah.
And that saddens me enormously that you are working so hard to remain front of mind in that way.
Yeah.
And that also explains why you do promote yourself and your successes. I love that you do that because it's not something, I mean, I will say I've never received an award. So from that point of view.
Get the website.
That wasn't a hint, but I would say that I've exactly what Elizabeth was saying there. I'm not someone who naturally will celebrate or push myself forward and say, hey, guys, I've done this. And actually to the point where I know now because I have fact-checked it 1,000 times and also I now have had other people say it to me. So this is something it took me a long time to be able to own and say that I'm the only woman, I believe in Australia, but definitely in Melbourne, to have taken 2 breakfast radio shows to #1 on 2 different networks, right? Now, that's actually a massive achievement.
That is a massive
but
achievement.
I have been terrified to say that publicly.
No, you need to say that constantly. Should be on your LinkedIn bio.
Hi there, I'm Jo Stanley, and I've taken 2 breakfast radio shows. Is that what I should do wherever I go? No, I find it really, really hard to say because I'm terrified someone will come up and actually smack me across the face and say, A, you're wrong, and B, don't say it.
But as a person who just received that, I'm like, I'm in awe. And I didn't know that.
Well, don't be in awe.
I know you were 1, but I didn't know 2.
I've done 2. That's how old I am. But, anyway, and I'm seeing from Stacey says, you should, Jo. No one will challenge it. Well, that's true. Who's going to fact check that? And also, how many men particularly go around saying things that aren't true all the time? Yeah. I'm going to say that. Thanks, Stacey. I feel very empowered in that. Anyway, so it's really wonderful to see the women that were awarded, and I hear that actually Victoria had 50% of women. That was fantastic for Go Victoria. I want to just mention 3 amazing women that I noticed who were awarded yesterday. There was, let me see, Ro, bring a photo over. We'll go with that one there. That's Phyllis Murphy. She's 98.
Wow. And
she received an AO yesterday for services to architecture and heritage conservation. Imagine, she's 98, right? So she was doing incredible things in the 50s and it's taken this long for her to get an award. Okay, love that. Then we have, this is Carolyn Stedman and her husband David, who have fostered 74 children over 46 years. Incredible. And look at beautiful Muriel Picton, who played for Australia from 1952 to 1970, including 7 years as captain. And she represented Australia in hockey between 59 and 62, and she was recognised for championing women's sport in a time when it was completely self-funded and was seen as a hobby. Oh my gosh, I love those women. And I love that they were awarded. How fantastic. My goodness, we need to introduce our first guest. I just saw the time. Who cares? We don't answer to anyone. Our first guest today is an award-winning journalist and author of more than 3 decades. She's been the voice of ABC Mornings in Queensland radio. She appears regularly on TV, including The Drum and Q&A, and her books are such brilliantly researched explorations of really interesting people, and her latest being Teenage Girls. Good morning, Madonna King.
Good morning.
Oh my gosh, I did say earlier and I'll say again, Madonna, my daughter is 13 and I read your book. Firstly, these girls, you interviewed 1,000 teenage girls who shared such incredible, like honest, deeply held feelings, which is rare because those girls don't tend to share that age.
No. Well, they don't tend to share with mum and dad, maybe. And one girl said, I've got an eating problem. I wish I could tell someone. And I said, have you talk to your mum? And she said, no. And the funny thing is they found it easier to talk to a stranger than their parents. And that's not because we're doing anything wrong. It's just they're so awkward at this stage. They feel awkward. They can't really laugh at themselves in a way that we laughed at ourselves. And I think the end result of that is they tend to feel as though they can get things off their chest more so with friends or strangers than their mum and dad. Certainly at 13, 14. I think they do come back to us when they're 16 and 17.
So what are the biggest challenges you heard that your 16, 17-year-old young woman, I'm going to say, because they're on the precipice of just hopefully an adult adventure for themselves. What are their greatest challenges?
This made me cry. The main one is their mental health. So I asked 1,000 of them, what is your biggest challenge today? 700 of them nominated a mental health challenge. Anorexia, anxiety, depression, self-harm, school refusal, massive anxiety, eating disorders. And there's a couple that I hadn't come across. I don't know, Jo, if you've heard of disordered eating called chewing and spitting, where they chew and then spit it out. So they get the taste but not the calories. Or another one, orthorexia, where it may start with a green juice. They'll only put into their body something that is really pure. So it might start with a smoothie, and then they'll get rid of wheat, and then they'll get rid of preservatives, and then sugar, and then dairy. And they reduce to eating a tiny amount of things. And I found that just heartbreaking. When we were that age, can you imagine putting a mental health challenge as our biggest challenge? Mine was finding a partner for the school formal, or getting a part-time job, or, you know, convincing mum and dad that I could go out on Friday night. And I know those challenges have always been there, but we have a big problem in this community when 7 in 10 girls nominate that as their number one challenge. And I think that kind of leads into others. I wish we would talk about COVID more. You know, we're saying, oh, great, get on with life, it's over. But it's not. And I think if you think of what you did when you were 16, Di, you too, what did you do at 16 and 17 that was a bit naughty? You know, we made calculated risks, we made mistakes, but we learnt skills out of that. Whether you live in a city like Melbourne, which had lockdown for 250 days, or Brisbane or Adelaide, it doesn't matter. It was the uncertainty that was cancelling things. And we are now seeing girls go to first year university who are acting more like 15-year-olds than 18-year-olds. And we're not talking about that. I'll shut up after this, but one guy because I got the 1,000 answers, and then went to school psychologists and school principals and teen counsellors, etc. And the demographer, Mark McCrindle, said to me that from a health perspective, the aged were most vulnerable in COVID. But from every other perspective, particularly socially and economic, it was teenagers. And we're just not addressing that.
I read the chapter on social media, and, you know, with the whole lockdowns, particularly here in Melbourne, social media must have amped up for a lot of Melburnian teenagers, because now schooling was now at home. They had no interaction with their teachers. And I got a little quote here. It's not about reducing social media, but it's actually reducing the comparison they have to each other that you wrote in there. Are you worried about these L-platers that are coming out into the world now?
I think comparison is a disease, and girls upwardly compare where boys don't necessarily. So they're looking at someone richer, prettier, thinner, and there is a direct link then between their moods and anxiety and how they see themselves. You know, our teenagers are absolutely awesome in their inclusivity, but then they're brutal in their self-judgment. And two things stood out in remote learning in Melbourne to me. One was really clever girls in year 12 who decided they would not go on to university. And that's because at first they skipped through their lessons. But come the second year, what do? You study all day, then you get up, walk around the kitchen table and sit back down and study for another 5 hours. They just wanted the end of lockdown, the end of school, and the end of study. And, you know, Jo, you just put up those beautiful pictures of award-winning women. These are girls like that in years to come. You have almost lost the motivation. The other thing I discovered in Melbourne was kids starting serious relationships earlier with the support of their family. So let's say I'm in grade 10 and I had a young boyfriend. Because parents wanted them to stay connected, because there was that 5-kilometre radius, I found many cases where parents said, look, why don't you spend time together? Because at least they were connecting with another human being. And that was quite a widespread phenomenon. And I'm not judging that one way or the other, but I'm just saying COVID changed their trajectory around relationships as well.
So talking of relationships then, that one of the most powerful chapters, and I know that it's also, there's been an excerpt in the Sydney Morning Herald as well, of your chapter about gender, which is a new thing as well. Now, I'm not suggesting that gender fluidity is new, but the conversation, the language, the actual acceptance of it, because I think at schools now, it's just standard that you have lots of non-binary kids.
It's standard you have lots, but it's standard that you have lots of non-binary kids, but I don't think anyone's dealing with that, Jo.
Right.
You know, I don't think schools are dealing with it. They're still dressing girls in little uniforms. They're not having unisex toilets. They're making them use the name they were born in. They're refusing to accept that they want to be referred to as they. And, you know, what we saw in this election campaign was a wedge issue where just made me feel sick for that very small proportion of children who are transgender. It's only 1.3%, but another 15% of girls will wonder, in the same way we might have wondered whether we were goth or whether we were whatever. You know, that's normal to go through that journey. But then there's another 15 to 30% who just want to provide space for their friends. And I think that's a lovely thing, but it's creating all hell, particularly in single-sex schools, I think.
So how do we support our young women? One, Stacey, who's watching right now, she says, is there such a thing as safe social media, and what's the right way to support our girls there? But really, in general, how can we support them through this incredibly difficult time?
Some of your older listeners will know of that still face experiment. I don't know, it was 30 years ago or something. And they put mothers opposite their babies and asked them to stay expressionless. And the kids became distressed. Researchers in New South Wales did the same thing last year with breasting, people who were breastfeeding and scrolling through their texts, and the children became similarly distressed. Social media is their life, and it is not going to change. And I'm a big supporter of social media. I think we've just got to teach them how to use it. And I think we probably have to teach ourselves, don't we? You know, I find myself in a queue at a shopping centre and I'll pull out my phone not to waste time.
Yeah.
I think the biggest antidote is white space. Lying on the trampoline and looking at the stars, reading a book, just stopping. One school principal said to me in Adelaide, I think it was, said, just get them not to touch their phone for 10 minutes in the morning when they're 17. And once they know they can do it for 10 minutes, and that seems just ridiculous, but you know how many girls struggle with not just reaching for it immediately. So I think another thing that has proved really successful is getting the girls together and saying, you work out the parameters. So what about a deal where you don't text after midnight if they're 17 or 18? Or, you know, we have friends who answer us straight away on social media and others who take 5 days. And we as adults don't take offence. We think, oh, that's Marg, she'll get back to me in 5 days. We've got to teach our children that too, that it's not a reflection on them that someone's not just answering them immediately.
Yeah, I think even that note about what you wrote, nothing good happens after midnight, isn't just for teenagers but for adults as well.
For all of us, absolutely.
Well, do you know, there was a lovely lady called Dr. Christy Goodwin, who's probably one of Australia's best social media advisors, who gave me that. She said, the exact quote was, social media is just like footballers. Nothing good happens after midnight. And she's married to a footballer.
Oh, funny. I used to say nothing good happens after 2 a.m, but I have moved it now to maybe 11 p.m. I don't know, as I get older.
9 p.m.
But, So, Madonna, I mean, I feel like our kids, there's so much expectation of them to be mini adults. You know, there's conversations, because I talk at schools a lot, and often girls will ask me, you know, I don't have a purpose. What do I do if I feel like there's no purpose or I haven't got any goals? And I'm like, don't have goals. You don't need them. And you know what? I'm almost 50 and I've only just started really knowing what my purpose is. But we ask our kids to be adults, you know?
You don't look anything like 50.
It's good lighting, Madonna. That's all I'll say.
I need some of that lighting. Look, you know, that is a really interesting question, because I think they do struggle with a purpose and they want to know where they're going. And I think what complicates that is when we were their age, we didn't have what they have. I remember growing up in country Queensland, and you could choose tennis or tennis as a sport, and an extracurricular activity, it was speech and drama or speech and drama. Now my kids go to a school where there's something like 25 different extracurricular activities. And I think they have this smorgasbord of life, and they're grazers. They don't know what to choose and for how long, whether it's career or sport or social activity. And someone expert said to me, they think they're frozen in fear. And I think that reflects the questions you get when you go and talk, Joe, that there's so much choice, they don't know where to actually, you know, look or go. And they want a purpose to be able to do that.
So then, if as a parent of a teenage daughter, but I think all of us, our role is to role model this generation into being, as you described them, the next generation of leaders. How can we help them? How can we role model them?
So many pieces of advice, but let me give you one. Particularly at the age of your daughter, 13, 14, let them fail. And it sounds so easy, but it's hard to watch them fail and burst out crying, to know they're not going to pass something. I don't necessarily mean academically. I just mean apply for a leadership position and don't get it. Try out for the A netball team and don't get near it, because there is no doubt that failure is the first step towards success. And you don't want them to fail so much when they're 21 and 22 and 23, but they are going to if they don't fail earlier. And I ask girls, confident girls, why are you so confident? And that is one thing that just occurred over and over again. They'd been really bad at something. There's this leadership expert at UQ, and I spent some time with him, and he did a study of the top 30 female CEOs in Australia. He found that 28 of them had had serious trauma in their life. Not a little bit of trauma, serious trauma. What does that say? They learnt to deal with that, and they've gone on to be one of Australia's top CEOs. And I think schools now mollycoddle our kids. They look at drafts. We help them with their homework. Mea culpa here. You know, I kind of wish, my girls are 17 and 18, and every time they fail now, I go, yes, thank you, thank you, thank you. But to see the heartache just makes me cry when I go to bed at night, because, you know, big kids, big fails. Little kids, little fails. And I think if your child, even if they're 25, just, you know, because it's no use just roller skating through school, going out with someone you adore the night before your exams, they call it off because it's really hard to get over. But if you've done that before, or if you've had to pick yourself up, you think, all right, this helped. I went for a run, or I played ABBA. Well, not ABBA, but, you know, it's coming back. Really, really bad. Or they just develop this mechanism to cope. And, you know, you think of your lives. What did you fail?
It's
and what
everything.
Yeah, me
everything.
too. Still failing. Still failing.
But that is such wonderful advice, and you're right that it's much easier said than done, because as a parent you want to protect your child from any pain, and to step away and go, oh my gosh, she's devastated and I have to let that happen. That's really, really hard. But that is on us as parents. Madonna, thank you so much for your incredible work. Your research is incredible, and I found it really mind-shifting for me to read your book. So thank you so much.
My pleasure, and thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Diana, you and I both love fashion.
Yes.
And we're passionate about diversity and inclusion as well. So I'm really thrilled to be speaking with our next guest. She's Australia's first blind fashion designer and founder of the label Blind Grit, Nikki Hind. Hi there.
Hello, how are you?
Oh, it's great to see you on our show and to listen to your story. Can you tell us what led you to become a fashion designer?
Gosh, and I've just been sitting here listening to wonderful Madonna, and I mean, there's no doubt that trauma and hardship, and I guess kind of failing at life in many ways got me there. I loved fashion design when I was young. It was that happy place I'd go to in my head, you know, creating designs in my head when I was daydreaming. And as a teenager, I couldn't sew and I didn't have a sewing machine, and I'd go and buy material and cut things out, and not from a pattern, just think I wanted about this shape and cut it out and staple it together and wear it to the school socials. Very, very, very daggy. But I thought that was not very practical, so I kind of went along practical paths. And when I had a stroke at the same time as I became a mum in my early 30s, the things that I was doing for work, those practical things that I had been doing for work, they were no longer an option once I tried to get back into the workforce, because this was now 17, 18 years ago. Oh, look, you've got my cat in the picture. And I mean, I think it's changing now, not as much as we need it to change, but it's changing. And I just could not get back into event management and public relations because I couldn't drive. I can't, I'm slow. I can read and I can use a computer to write, and there wasn't the technology there. So I reached for a dream, an aspiration with that idea of it, you know, being strong enough to pull you out of the rather dark place I was in at the time. And a dark place with two beautiful, bright, shiny boys is no place to be. I did not want to be in a dark place as a mummy of two beautiful boys. I wanted to be back in a bright place. So that was the beginning of Blind Grit. Well, the very seeds of Blind Grit. So that was when I started in my late 30s.
It's I can't even imagine how. So you had a newborn and you had a stroke, and so you were navigating two incredibly new and discombobulating, and often very well. Having a newborn can be traumatic as well, and you're managing a chronic illness. And how did you navigate that?
Well, I had the stroke when I was pregnant with Darcy, with my eldest. And look, I just love listening to Madonna there. I'm just nodding away in the background thinking, yes, yes, yes. I mean, growing up, I had numerous things that were numerous things. That's possibly a bit of an exaggeration. I had quite a few things that were, for me, as traumatic as losing one's vision. So I had practice, because people ask me this question a lot, and I tend to answer I'm an optimist, and I am an optimist. However, I did have good grounding. I'd already had a lifetime of grounding in how to deal with trauma, which is literally something that feels threatening to your, you know, well-being or life that's out of your control. And I mean, you know, in all honesty, it's very good because the blindness came into my life at the same time as my beautiful boys, as becoming a mum. And I think, like many people, especially maybe people who've survived trauma in the past, it's they were my savior in terms of letting me know who I was, and what I could offer these beautiful little beings, rather than wondering and reacting to what people thought I was, and the narrative that others had given me in my life. So the legal blindness really took a back seat, and I say this all the time. It took a back seat because my little baby needed me, and gosh, I needed him. He's divine, which is not to underplay the difficulty. It was difficult, but I was so, it came into my life at the same time as completely falling in love with being a mum and having these two boys.
It's so inspiring. I'm not a mother myself, but just hearing that your boys are the shining light, and they led you to have that inside of you, that light. I'm curious, when did you realize that the texture of fabric was going to, that re-love of texture would be part of your new career and creating your brand?
Well, it was actually, it wasn't until the boys were, gosh, how old were they? They were, I think, 5 and 7, and true seemingly to the rest of my story, the younger part of my story, there are a couple of other really traumatic, horrible things that happened post becoming blind as well, and that had left me in this in this horrible place of having no confidence and feeling afraid, and like the world is so heavy. So it was, so the joy of texture and fabric and fashion has been there. Honestly, it's been there since I was a kid. I was a kid who loved to play dress ups. I was a kid who would dress up and do concerts. I was a teenager then who went and bought, it was the 80s, electric blue satin and purple stretch lace, and
Sure.
stapled it together. And
did you have a bubble skirt, Nikki?
Oh my God! They're coming back in. I saw them. I'm seeing them around. And I knew they would.
I was so jealous of the girls who had bubble skirts in the 80s.
Well, I spent way too much money on a bubble skirt for the amount of money I had, and then almost instantly regretted it and had almost nowhere to wear it. But I did love it. It was truly, truly fabulous. Yeah.
Yeah. And so now you launched Blind Grit, which is, we're seeing your recent line at the moment. I believe this is your first ready-to-wear line that you've launched, and you've been in Australian Fashion Weeks, and so it's an incredible thing that you're doing. I mean, anyone who's able to launch a label is, I think, extraordinary, because
it's pretty bloody hard, I found out.
The competition in the country is insane, right? But fashion is not necessarily known as a very inclusive industry. Were there barriers for you?
Yeah, look, for sure. And I think it's a double-sided coin as well, especially in the beginning, because there certainly were barriers. And, when I would tell people, and still because I don't look blind. I don't think I look blind anyway. And, and when I tell people, when people do know I'm blind and they ask, what do I do? And I say I'm a fashion designer, still the usual reaction is a literal laugh out loud, like, God, that doesn't fit together. And, when I was going through the journey of creating Blind Grit, this is something that I've told many times. There was a mentor along the way. Well, he was supposed to be mentoring me, one of Australia's leading social business mentors, because I'd won an award for the business model of Blind Grit, who ended up telling me, in absolute frustration, after kind of nearly 2 hours of berating me about trying to work out what I couldn't do, I think is what he was trying to work out. He ended up just kind of bursting out and saying, but you can't do this, and neither can they meaning people who survive trauma and live with disability. And I was
But do what? What is it that he was saying you couldn't do?
Start a fashion label.
Oh, but why?
I know, and I was really heartbroken, and not so much for the berating, but for because I know, and I'm sure many other people who live with disability, especially disability leaders who are, trying to get the message out of the strengths and the values that those who live with disability can bring. You can feel, the kind of insidious undercurrent of devaluing, and it's devaluing based on not understanding. We don't have many examples. The more examples we have of people doing interesting, good things, being part of teams who make great decisions, the more people with lived experience of disability that can show a track record of that, the more that insidious social idea will dissipate. But I was heartbroken because I thought, wow, I get so excited about what disability can bring and what I can do and what others can do. And then, it felt like that, that real welfare mentality of, we'll let you know how we can help you and what you can do. Don't be above your station. And I'd been told earlier that day by a woman who'd been listening to, the pictures and things. She said, "Oh, that's a very lofty idea." And I thought, gosh, that's just things like that. And in response to that man, initially I thought, shit, my God, you're the expert. You would know. It's very hard. He's had so many successes, and I don't know. I don't know what I'm doing. But then there is a real sense of I think you're wrong. I really think we can do this. Because just to clarify, Blind Grit is built entirely of and around those who live with disability. That's the whole concept behind it. Because there is no fashion label like that in the whole world, not just in Australia, in the world. There is no fashion label. Because I speak a lot about, the decisions behind things that get done. And of course, for me, things that get done in fashion, they need to be made by those with lived experience as well for genuine inclusivity. So, that's what he was saying couldn't be done. Me leading it with other people with disabilities, and I include surviving trauma in that, or post-traumatic stress. So that's what he was saying. And I thought, wow, I think you are so wrong, because I know the work that goes into... I know the personal work that no one sees in surviving trauma and living with disability. I know my strengths. They are quiet, invisible strengths, but I know them. And I thought, if you are right, I want to know why. So I'm not going to stop. I'm going to keep doing this because you could be right. Maybe I can't do this and maybe we can't do this, but we should be able to do it. And if we can't, I want to know why, because it's not because we're disabled. It's something else.
That is so powerful.
Yeah.
Two things I just wrote down there. I think you're wrong. What a powerful thing to say to yourself and to say out loud. I just think that's incredible. How many times if we could just gift that to everybody, the freedom to say, I think you're wrong.
And I've had someone say that to me.
You can't do that.
Yeah. And we've proved them both wrong.
Yeah, I think you're wrong. And
I think they were wrong.
Yeah. And quiet, invisible strengths. Oh my gosh, I just love that, Nikki. just to hear that you know, we all have quiet invisible strengths, and our voices, we have that inner voice that tells us that they're not actually a strength.
Exactly. They're nothing. Yeah. Yeah, they're nothing if they're not seen and not someone's not paying you big dollars for it.
Well, we just we love Blind Grit, and tell us very quickly, your current line is available at the moment. We can purchase these.
It finally is. It's been a long time coming. So this is our first retail collection. It is available, and not only we're going to have a couple of things going on. This is our couture or runway designer component of our retail collection, and we're going to also have some more kind of off the hanger stuff as well in a week or so. But yeah, please have a look and see that handsome young man there. Mm-hmm. That's my son. That's Darcy that I was talking about.
Look at Darcy.
Not that I'm a proud mum.
It's a family business.
You should be a proud mum. That's beautiful. I love
He had to step in because of COVID. A couple of the models couldn't turn up, and I said, "Daz, can you please?" He's such a good boy.
I know, because a lot of kids would say, "I couldn't bear it, Mum. I'm not doing your thing." So he is a good boy for doing that. So head along. The website is blindgrit.com. Is that right? Yes, Blind Grit. Yeah. I should have written that in my notes. Blindgrit.com. Head along and pick up there. I really love. It's like sort of got it feels a little bit of a hybrid of fashion and activewear, which is very on trend after the years that we've had at home.
Yeah, I made up a totally new genre of fashion. I totes made it up.
You totes did.
I totes did. It's street fit gear.
Street fit gear. I absolutely love it. Thank you so much for joining us today, Nikki. It's been a delight to hear your story.
Thank you so much.
My workout routine comes with me wherever I go, and so does Bondi Protein. It gives me the post-workout nutrients I need. Fuel your body with Australian-made Bondi Protein.
Broad Radio. Talking inspo we love, info we need, and sharing more of us. Watch and listen live every Tuesday 9 a.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Savings Time at broadradio.com.au, or find us on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube and LinkedIn at Broad Radio Oz. Talk to us live. Call on 1300 8 Broad. Catch up on demand anytime, anywhere, every time, everywhere. On the train, we'll be here. 2 a.m. existential crisis? We've got you covered. Broad Radio. Here for more.
Well, I'm so excited to bring two good friends together as I introduce a comedian whose name lends itself to some fabulous puns, and I've had a good time with myself over the last 24 hours.
Great, we're going to hear
coming up with this. Her recent comedy shows include Who Dis, Who Am I, and now Who Cares? It's Lizzy Hoo. Hi there, Lizzy. Uh-oh, I can't hear you. I don't know what's happening.
Hi, Lizzy.
Are you there? Let's try again. Say hello.
Hello.
No, we're going to ask you to maybe jump out and jump back in with your link. While she's doing that, Diana,
yes,
just wanted to ask you about your Melbourne Theatre Comedy, MTC, Melbourne Theatre Company.
Yes.
Show that you have written.
I know. It's co-written with Petra Kalev, and it's going to have a world premiere in 2 months. It's amazing. It was a lockdown project. It started in August 2020. Wrote a play on Zoom.
It's incredible. It is an adaptation of the Alice Pong book Lorinda, and it's an incredible achievement to write a play that MTC then put on. Yeah, I mean they commissioned you though, right?
They did commission us. Well, we did get a grant, and then we wrote it. And then Petra, because she's also the director of this play, so she's been working on this for 2 years now. She loves this play and wanted to have it seen. You know what Nikki talked about, having it seen. And for the first time, I think, I'm saying it like you're
do it.
It is probably the first ever Vietnamese Australian family play ever at MTC. There's going to be spoken Vietnamese language on stage. And I've been crying. When we've been doing the reading, like last week I was crying just reading it, just to hear my mum's native tongue on stage. On Australian
beautiful
stages. I know, it's amazing.
And you can purchase tickets to head along to see this play at mtc.com.au. And honestly, I'm just in awe that you've done that.
It's done a lot.
Babe, it's brilliant. So,
Thank you.
head along and see that. I think we've got Lizzy back. Hi there, Lizzy.
Hi, Lizzy.
Hi.
Hi.
Yay.
Yay. We can hear you
Good.
and see you. So I did say that I did a little, brainstorm with myself with your
this
name
is
last
good.
night. So because I know, like for a long time, Will Anderson, he's known for the puns and the comedy festival shows that he pulls together with his name, like Willarious, and on and on it goes. So Who is amazing, and I'll just pitch to you. I mean, there's Who Are You and Who's Talking.
Yeah,
It's pretty
it's
good.
Yes.
Yeah. Have you got a long list yourself? Because I don't want to.
It's a full career.
Yeah.
What's that?
It's a full career of shows that Joe could be
Yeah.
helping you with.
I've got more if you want.
Yeah, no, please send them to me. There's Woohoo.
Oh, good one.
Yeah, there's so many that you could
Yeah.
do.
Who Let the Dogs Out?
Who Let the Dogs Out?
Yeah. Who Farted?
That could be my kids' book.
Perfect. I love it. It's so great. So you are doing a replay of your comedy festival show at Comedy Republic in Melbourne, and I don't know if you're touring again with your show at all.
Maybe. I think it'll just be this one show at Comedy Republic in Melbourne, and they're doing they're bringing back a few shows from the festival, which is great. But yeah, maybe it will pop up later in the year, but no plans as yet.
Well, Lizzy and I were in Brisbane together. We saw each other late April. Was it May? Late May. And we had to do a publicity shoot for a newspaper. And I just remember the last time I saw Lizzy we had to do a hand shoot. Like we had to show on this photo that we were comedians.
Ah, yeah. Oh, yeah, they love that.
Comedians have to have their hands out.
Oh, yeah. Because otherwise, I think the photographer said, otherwise they won't know you're funny.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't. It was great.
Because that's funny.
Yes.
Don't you know? To do a bit of spirit hands. Yeah, there's
Yeah.
people like you to put your thumbs up, like you're going, oh, to the camera, like, hey, I'm happy because I got my thumb.
Yeah.
Yeah. How do we know you're funny, Lizzy? This is the problem.
Well, you can come to a show and find out for yourself, I think. I don't know. I've got a few things online you can go and watch.
No, when did you know you were funny?
For everyone. Oh, when did I know? Oh, I don't know. I think I've got a funny family, so we joke around a lot. So I think coming from that environment, where it was very like roast-based comedy, to the outside world, I was like, oh, I think I could do comedy. I think I've got a sense of humor.
Lizzy's family's very funny. Yeah.
They're all like big. I've got probably the smallest personality in my family. Everyone else is big. They're big personalities. Very funny characters.
Liz's brother, who's from Bali, he came to see her show, and after his show, he did the whole $20. Can you tell that story?
Yeah, so he lives in Bali, and he's a content creator. He's a YouTuber, and he had this idea after my show. So they came to my show. First time I'd seen him in 3 years, and he said to me, he's like, oh, I want to do a 1-minute video promo for your show. And I was like, yeah, okay. I was like, you don't have to, honestly, it's fine. But he did it, and what he did was ask all these people after my show whether they wanted their money back. So he's just going up to random people like, hey, does anyone want do you want your $25 back? You sure you want, oh, you enjoyed the show? Like he knew that people wouldn't say, yeah, give me my money back. So he made this really cute little video. It was very nice.
And I read that or heard that your father plays the ukulele, which, I feel like former Prime Minister Morrison really, he
it.
kind of ruined the ukulele for lovers of the instrument.
Oh.
Did your father have a reaction to that?
No, I don't think he really cared. But to be honest, I don't know. Was the ukulele ruined before that? It's the ukulele.
No.
I'm sorry, Diana. I'm sorry. I know you
Because
play
I play
ukulele
ukulele
as
in my
well.
show.
Well, come on. I mean, Vance Joy has made the ukulele very cool.
Oh, yeah, 3 chords. That's whole song, Riptide.
Don't you think?
Yeah. Well, Dad has actually moved on from the ukulele now. He's playing a guitar. He's moved on. So when I say, "Oh, are you still playing the ukulele?" Oh, no. I'm playing the guitar now.
Where does he play the guitar? Is he a performer?
Oh yeah, he plays. He does like 4 or 5 open mics a week. My dad. He's 83 years old.
He's touring more than you.
Yeah. Oh, he plays, like, he was on the weekend. He plays the drums. You know, like the cajon, the little bongo drum. He plays that in a band, and they played at some festival on the weekend. I got a picture from my cousin who was there and watched him. But yeah, he performs all the time. He loves it.
You talk a lot about your family in your shows, and I was wondering how they go with that, because I heard Maisha, who's a singer on Triple J, the other day, and she was talking about her mum was always like, "Why do you have to write songs about me? Because I don't." It hurts a bit. How does your family go?
Mum's probably the one that doesn't want to be involved. She's like, "Oh, leave me out of it." But they all come off quite good. I think this year definitely the show is a lot about my family, and yeah, they're okay with it. They're fine with it. They've got good senses of humour.
My mom's still waiting for a commission. Yeah, because I'm so inspired by
Yeah.
her.
Yeah.
She wants the money.
Yeah. Well, that's it. Like, I did think in this show there's a big chunk about my brothers. Like, it's probably like a good 10 to 15 minutes, I would say. And I do think, oh gosh, I probably should give them some commission for that. Like,
no, that's the benefit of growing up as your brother.
Yeah,
Surely.
that's it. And I'm the younger sister, so, you know, if you could have told little Lizzy that her future job would be paying out her brothers, I think she would have done it a lot sooner, to be honest.
So then give me a little insight, because I did not grow up with brothers. What is it like growing up with your brothers?
Well,
what do you
so
share in your shows?
Oh, one brother is a lot older than me. So I can't really remember living with him that much. He's 11 years older than me. But the one I did grow up with, he's only 2 years older than me. He's a PE teacher now. That's all you need to know. You know, he's a PE teacher and a YouTuber. Does that paint a picture? Like, the guy is full on. He's always doing something, and I was just that person that was, you know, there to do something with, and I would just say, yeah, whatever you want to do, I'll do it.
So you were convinced to be an accomplice, but almost against your will?
Oh, I don't think I had a choice. There was no choice in the matter. So I would just do whatever. Like, he's a great athlete, so I was always, okay, we're going to do obstacle courses. We're going to go down to the footy club. We're going to kick the footy. And I'd be down. I just remember this one time I was down at the footy club, which was near our house. And he taught me how to do everything. And he's like, okay, we're not leaving until you do 10 good drop kicks. And like, we literally stayed there until I did 10 good ones. And then we left. And like, it was dark. I was like, I want to go home. Well, yeah, classic Big Brother stuff.
Yeah. We'll head along and see Lizzy in, which it's Who Cares, this one, yes?
Yeah, this one's Who Cares. Yeah.
Yeah, at Comedy Republic. If you are in Melbourne, and of course, check out Lizzy's work online. There's lots of YouTube clips actually of you doing some good.
Yeah, there's a few YouTube, TikTok, Instagram,
Everywhere.
Yeah, everywhere really except Twitter
And LinkedIn.
That's one place I'm not.
That's enough.
Yeah, well, you're a LinkedIn superstar, so there's only room
Oh,
for
sorry,
one.
LinkedIn. You know, I shut down my LinkedIn when I quit my job, my office job. I logged out.
Yeah.
How did that feel?
Felt pretty good, actually.
Yeah.
I didn't want my corporate work history to come up in my Google searches.
Well, thank you so much for joining us on the show today, Lizzy, and all the best with We Love Comedy Republic. It's an amazing venue, so I'm glad you're heading down there. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Thank you. You take care. That brings us to the end of the show, Doss. Yeah.
Done.
It's done. It's been lovely to have you and share and learn about full moon.
I'll send you a message tonight about the full moon parties. You'll like it.
Yeah.
Could be a good PD day.
Oh, yeah. Well, so what I need to learn what sort of intentions to set myself for the next month.
I'll send it to you.
All right. Okay. All right. Well, we're going to be back with Broad Radio next Tuesday. We'll see you then.